Hello everyone, this is another Minecraft video, and I know, it's crazy, I'm posting Minecraft videos so much sooner than I thought I would. But this is going to be a short video. I want to show you guys a design I found totally by accident while trying to make something else. So basically, I've discovered a bud switch, except it's a very specific type of bud switch. So if you look at that light, it's off. If I do that, like a normal bud switch would turn on from that, right? Because a block has been updated, but it didn't. If I wanted to say put sand there, nothing. But if I put redstone there, the light turns on. And if I take that off, the light turns on again. But of course it doesn't have to be just redstone, it works with repeaters as well. I believe it would also work with a redstone torch. Oh, nope, that one didn't work, see? Oh, but if I took it off, it does work. So it's a little specific about what it reacts to. If I put a comparator, it works. And I have a hypothesis that I want to test now, that if I put the comparator facing sideways, it won't work. Yep. Did not work. And if I remove this, nope. That's what I thought. So basically, this is a bud switch that only reacts if you place something here that could potentially carry a redstone signal into the block, even if it's not actually carrying a redstone signal in. And the way this works is by exploiting a torch burnout, as I'm sure you may have heard while I was testing it. So this is a simple design that's been used as a bud switch before, but I wasn't able to find it used quite in this way. All the bud switches I found before using a torch burnout of this design were using this side as the bud switch, which actually works as a generic bud switch. So if I update the block this way, you get the signal. But what I noticed when testing other designs, and actually I had not seen this design before, I was trying to create a burnout clock by putting the other torch on this side, and I had removed that torch during design phase and noticed this weird specific bud behavior. But if you'll notice, this does not update, whereas this side it does. So people had been using this generic side as a bud before, but nobody ever realized that this side works as a bud as well, but only for redstone carrying devices that could potentially carry a signal in even if they don't. And so you'll notice this flashed, but on the other end we got a solid signal. That's not because I'm using a lamp, though a lamp would carry a solid signal directly. But if you want to use more than a lamp, you're going to need a solid signal out. So I just put these two repeaters here on full ticks to extend the length of each pulse so that they kind of interfere with each other. And the result is that you get a nice solid signal out here. And you can use that for anything. You could put it into a flip-flop. You could put it into a latch. You could put it into anything. Anything you want. If you extend it out even more and make it a longer pulse, you could use it as a temporary door. I don't know, whatever you would use a bud switch for, you can use this. But this has the benefit of not reacting to any update, except redstone specific updates, things that would carry a redstone signal even if you're not actually giving it a signal. And redstone, even in survival, is extremely cheap and easy. So if you just were to bring this part out, the facade here, out and around, nobody would ever suspect that this particular block is a bud. And if they did detect or suspect that it were a bud, they would, start dropping things and get no response, and they would move on. Only if they knew it was specifically a redstone bud. Ding. Would they actually even think to do that. So the point of buds, by the way, in case you don't know, a bud is a block update detector, which means rather than responding to any kind of direct input like pressing a button or stepping on a pressure plate or whatever, it detects when a block has had its data updated, either because it's changed type or because it's changed state. For example, a redstone ore emits a block update when it turns the light on and when it turns it off. Or a furnace will emit an update when it starts smelting and when it stops smelting, things like that. But those are all generic block updates, and they will not trigger this from this side. They will trigger it from this side, as the standard BUD uses, but they will not trigger it from this side unless it could potentially cause a redstone current to flow into the block, even if it doesn't actually carry a signal. So I think the way this works, and I could be totally wrong here, but when a torch burns out, usually the way to get it to start to turn on again, really, is by changing the circuit that it's in somehow. Basically, the game is programmed to detect changes in a redstone design, or rather in redstone vicinity, for anything that could potentially change the power of this block and allow this torch to not flash on and off until it burns out again. And if it detects that, it will turn on. So if you put a regular block here, that wouldn't do anything to allow this circuit to change, so it doesn't actually turn the torch on. But if you put a redstone thing here, there's a potential that it might actually be changing the circuit, so it turns the torch on, and then the clock starts, the pulse gets extended, and you get a solid output for however long you have your repeater set for. So yeah, that's my redstone specific block update detector. Now, one thing I am curious about, now that I mentioned it, was furnaces. So if my hypothesis about how this works is right, then a redstone a furnace will not emit a redstone signal or even potentially carry one on its own. So using a furnace should not actually trigger this BUD. But I do want to check that just to be sure. So if I put the furnace there, we get no output. I put coal in there and a pork chop on top. Nope, no output. Good. Exactly what I thought. So yeah, so furnaces won't trigger this. Blocks won't trigger this, except potentially a redstone block, I guess. You're watching me test some of these things live. I did a little testing before, but nope. Interestingly enough, even redstone blocks don't test it, probably because redstone blocks power things weakly, so they wouldn't actually power this block in the first place by being next to it, so it doesn't even account for that. So redstone blocks don't do anything. Any other kind of block updates don't do anything. Even putting a torch here does nothing, which is because that torch will power that. I just realized. So technically this is triggering the BUD, except that it's turning this off permanently. So yeah, interesting. And that's why turning it off triggers the BUD. But yeah, so if people think there's a BUD switch here, they'll try other things like dirt or something cheap. They won't think to put redstone there, and it won't do anything. If they don't think there's a BUD switch there, then hopefully you've concealed this and it'll be completely hidden. So yeah, I mean, the only thing that I noticed is the issue of if you want to conceal this block here, or this redstone here, you have to put a block in front of it, and you need access to this block here, so you can't, you have that one block gap. But at the same time, if you put this, say, in a building that has this design around the edge, it won't look out of place at all. So yeah, there we have it. A specifically redstone, potential redstone signal block update burnout detector. I don't know. I was going to call it a burnout bud, but that's already taken as a name for the regular bud with this design, like that. So in this case, maybe I don't know, a redstone burnout bud? I don't know, whatever you guys want to call it, name suggestions in the comments below. If somebody else has already found this and I was just unable to find them, please let me know, again, in the comments. Just link me to them or mention their name and I will go check them out and give credit where it's due. But as far as I know, I'm the first person to discover this behavior on this side of the burnout bud. So yeah, this could be useful in many ways as a more concealed bud than a bud already is. So cool, use it as you wish. And let me know if this was helpful. Let me know what else you want to see. So until next time, keep redstoning, keep designing, and keep budding.